welcome to Backyard Science. My name is Marilyn. I work at the Monterey County Free Libraries at the Marina branch, and this week we will be doing some terrific tide pooling in our Monterey Bay backyard. We will go over where to go tide pooling in our area, as well as how to do it safely, and then we'll check out some of the critters that you might see when you're tide pooling. Now, as you can see, I'm wearing a mask because there isn't anybody else around right now, but it is a public park, so I want to make sure that I am safe and socially distanced. Here in Monterey, some of the locations for tide pooling are along the Ocean View Boulevard, Lovers Point, Maccabee Beach, and Asilomar Beach near Sunset Drive. Look for places where the water is pooled and relatively calm, shielded from the crashing waves, and that is safely accessible from the path. To tide pool safely, it helps to go when the tide is going out, so right before or right after a low tide. I like to check the NOAA website at tidesandcurrents.noaa.gov. That's NOAA for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association. It has a graph that shows which tides are low and high and what times of the day that those are. The low tides change time and height throughout the year. Right now, the lowest tides are in the evening when it's getting dark, but I was able to go at 3:30, which was about 2 hours before the 5:45 low tide, and still see some pretty cool stuff. It's definitely better to go also when the tide is going out, so that it doesn't sneak up on you unexpectedly. Even when it's low tide, always keep an eye out for big waves that might sneak up on you. It's always possible that a big one could come through even when it is low tide or going out towards low tide. To stay comfortable, bring layers because the weather can change or get windy or foggy, especially here in California on our coast. I like having a windbreaker, a lightweight or waterproof pants to shield my legs in case I trip on the rocks or in case I get wet, and sturdy shoes. If you don't have water shoes or securely strapped sandals, old tennis shoes work too. If you have them, wool socks are good because they don't absorb the water as terribly, or they keep you warm even when they're wet. If you do not go barefoot, please. There are many sharp shellfish and barnacles and rocks that will cut you when you're tide pooling. Also, be cautious as the rocks can be slippery. So with all those safety things out of the way, here are some of my expeditions. I went to Ocean View Boulevard and Lovers Point, but there are definitely many other cool places to tide pool. This is just a quick preview and just a couple of the species that you might see, so you never know what you will find. Hello everyone, here I am in our bay backyard. There's no one around right now, but I'm still having my mask on just in case. I climbed down the rocks very carefully, and I'm going to tide pool without disturbing the environment as much as I can. You can see around here that the rocks are wet, so it's important to watch out, keep an eye out on the waves when you're tide pooling. But yeah, there are these little quiet, secluded, rocky areas with lots of cool little critters that like to hang out. So let's take a look. See how the rocks are filtering the water through, keeping our little critters shielded from the waves over there. Ooh. And the waves coming up a little faster, so definitely one of the things I want to watch for. There's a sea anemone under the water. The water is so clear, it's only about a few inches deep, but you can really see down to the bottom here. Of our cool salt water here on the Pacific coast. Sea anemones are cnidarians, and they're in the same family as jellies, except that it's like an upside down jelly because it's stuck to the rock, but then its tentacles are the part that is out in the water that can get and grab food for it, rather than kind of floating freely in the water like a jelly that we think of does. Tons of snails and hermit crabs along, and this mussel that I think is still alive. You can see little barnacles on it, and these animals will open up when the water comes back in to feed. And let's see, so we want to leave it alone. Remember, when you're tide pooling in this Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, you are not allowed to take anything, but there are many cool things to look at. See, there's the little hermit crab moving. Sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to disturb you. The thing is that a lot of times you look at something and it looks kind of still and boring, and then you get closer. And there's water there. I don't know if you can see the shininess, but then you see that tons of things are moving. You can see little crabs moving. Mostly. Now, I am not a kelp expert, so I'll have to research this when I go back to my computer, but you can see all kinds of algae. Remember that kelp are mostly photosynthetic algae. I think I see some coralline algae over there too. I'll see if I can find it. Ooh, so this little pool, again, you can see the waves getting a little more, and see the water's coming up a little higher. So I want to be careful. See how the kelp has a hold fast to keep it tight on the rock when the waves come in. And here you can really see the hermit crab community is booming. Hermit crabs are crustaceans. They are very plentiful, as you see in our video, and they don't make their own shell. They use shells from other animals that have died that make their own shells, and then they shed their outer skin or exoskeleton periodically and move into new shells as they grow. So you might see a hermit crab sometimes maybe moving into a new empty shell if it doesn't like the one it has. It's able to pull into the shell if it sees any gulls or oyster catchers that are coming through looking to eat it. So that's one of the ways that the hermit crab and other animals keep themselves safe from predators. And there is a fish over there. I don't know if you can see it. It looks like it's on the rock. It's like a little baby sculpin, possibly. Oh, I don't know if I get close enough to get a good look, and I might scare it. Oh, a limpet next to my shoe. That little cone-shaped thing. Trying to keep my feet off of our little invert critters, but it's difficult to do. Oh, I'd love to see tons of really cool things in here. Limpets make their own shells, like snails do. So they are gastropods. Cling to the rock. You can see they do breathe through the water, so they're hunkered down at the moment because the tide is out. When the tide comes in, they can move around more and munch things. Hermit crabs. For hermit crabs, take shells. Here's my finger for scale. Take shells from dead snails and move into them as they grow. They are crustaceans. Here is some coralline algae too, that purple on the rock. And I believe that orange is a tunicate, but I can't remember. I'll have to go research that too. This is under this rock. Here you can see more mussels, or there, with snails and hermit crabs on top of them. Now, of course, when you're tide pooling, you're also going to see some animals that like to munch on the critters that you are looking at. In some of these videos, we see a black oyster catcher, which is a shorebird. It clings to the rocks and uses its long red-orange bill to pry limpets and other shellfish off of the rocks and eat them. Gulls also like to eat things like this, or little shellfish. Oyster catchers also make a really fun squeaky toy noise, which you will hear as well. Oyster catchers! Yes! There's the sound. funny. If you can see them on the rock. My camera is not super good. Come on, which way, buddies? You can tell this is definitely not the lowest of low tides, so I'm being very careful, but I'm running out of daylight, so let's see what I can see at Perkins Park here. I can see the waves are kind of coming in sets. Every now and then you can hear the squeal of the oyster catchers, and then over here the limpets are all the way over here, so you can definitely see how hardy the limpets are and how long they can last without water. They're just on the moisture that's on the rock. More anemones! Yay! So cute. This one you can see is out of the water. There's the water line. There's the closed up sea anemone jumping on something. Or it could be scared of the crab that's crawling on it. Sea star. Is Marilyn algae. I believe this is also crustose Marilyn algae, but I can't remember. I'll tell you all the hermit crabs. See all the empty shells because there's so many mollusks. Barnacle shell over there. You also see two forms of coral and algae here. There is a branching form and a crustose form that encrusts rocks and even some animals. You can see the tube feet, which is how the sea star moves. But it doesn't need to move right now because the water is flowing right underneath, carrying little tiny microscopic pieces of food. Well, I hope you enjoyed this peek at our Monterey Bay tide pools. You never know what you may find, so I encourage you to get out and explore our terrific tide pools. Socially distanced, of course. A great place to learn about the Monterey Bay is the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Even though it's closed, you can enroll in online courses through them, and one is called Tidepool Scientist. Go check out those and their other courses, as well as our online and in-branch resources at the Monterey County Free Libraries. And that website is emcfl.org. Take care and have fun exploring. See you next time. Bye.